name is Ziad Daoud. I'm the Chief Emerging Markets Economist at Bloomberg. And in the next 7 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about the macroeconomic impact of the ongoing war in the Middle East. Now, the one-sentence summary of my presentation is that the impact of the war gets bigger the closer you get to the conflict itself. What do I mean by this? Well, let's start broadly. Let's start with what's happening in the global economy and how it has been affected by the war. Basically, the effect of the war has been limited on the global economy, and I just have one picture to show you here, which is this. So if you look at the orange line, this is what analysts expect global growth to be in 2024 and how this expectations has evolved over time over the last few months. And if you look at the left side of this chart, you can see that analysts were expecting global growth to be 2.6% in 2024 back in October. So they expected the economy to grow by 2.6% in 2024. Today, they expect the global economy to grow by 2.9%. That's higher than 2.6% that they were expecting in October. And that's despite a raging war in the Middle East. The white line tells you a similar picture, but about the US economy, which is the world's largest economy. Again, it's a similar picture, but the revisions are actually larger. Back in October, analysts were expecting the US to grow by 0.9%. In 2024, today they expect it to grow by 2.4%. That's a significant revision, despite an ongoing war in the Middle East. So you look at these numbers, and you wouldn't have thought that there is a raging war in the Middle East, which is the center of discussion of many sessions in this conference. So why has the global economy been immune from the war here in the region? And I think there is one reason, and that reason is oil. Oil supplies have continued to flow to the global economy uninterrupted, and traders have a geopolitical risk premium that is less than $2 per barrel, according to our estimates. And this is what I'll show you in the next chart. What this chart is showing you is the evolution of oil prices since October 6th, so right before the war started. And I want you to focus on the magenta bars. These are the red purplish bars. What that is the contribution of geopolitical risk to oil prices. So you can see after October 7th, when the war broke out, there was an increase, a surge in oil prices that's driven by geopolitical risk. The geopolitical risk premium in oil prices in late October reached $12 per barrel. You go to more recent times, and that risk premium has fallen. The magenta bar is still positive, but it's small. It's around $1.5 per barrel, according to our estimate. So not only has the global economy didn't suffer from a disruption to oil supplies and oil flows, but traders don't expect an interruption and a disruption to oil supplies globally, and that's why the global economy has been immune from the ongoing conflict in the region. Now, to say the global economy has been unaffected by the region doesn't mean that everyone has gotten away with it. Regionally, the war has been costly, and I'll show you 3 examples. The first example is Egypt. So the war has resulted in a disruption to trade in the Red Sea that has reduced traffic to the Suez Canal by almost 60%. The Suez Canal is an important source of dollars for Egypt. It generates about $9 billion annually to Egypt. You lose 60% of that over a persistent period of time. The cost of the war to Egypt is a few $billion. So that's example 1. Example number 2 is Israel. The central bank in Israel estimates the cost of war to Israel as $69 billion in 2023 and 2024. Israel military spending has resulted in a wide budget deficit, 7% of GDP. That's the widest, at least this century. And basically, some rating agencies have reduced or downgraded Israel's credit rating as a result of the war and a higher military spending. And the third example is Gaza, of course, the center of the conflict. The war has devastated the Gaza economy. The World Bank and the UN estimates the cost of infrastructure damage in tens of billions of dollars. They estimate the cost of reconstruction or the duration of reconstruction and rebuilding. It will take decades. Most of the population is displaced, and almost everyone lives in poverty. So yes, the impact on the global economy might be limited, but regionally, there are costs and big costs in some places. So what's going to happen next? So if you think about what happened over the last 7 months, devastating war from a human level, but limited impact on the global economy with costs regionally. Our base case and our expectations is that that's our base case, that things will continue. We'll have a confined conflict that is confined to Gaza, that's confined to the Red Sea, maybe skirmishes on the Israel-Lebanon borders, and the impact of that on the global economy is likely to be limited, as we have seen over the last 7 months. But there are risk scenarios as well. There is a risk scenario in which you could have a direct war between Iran and Israel. We think this is a low probability, but a high impact event. It's difficult to see what's going to happen to oil prices in the global economy in this case, but if we take 1991 Gulf War as a potential sort of benchmark, we could see a situation in which oil prices could rise to $150 per barrel. Such an increase in oil prices would see an impact on the global economy, global growth, and global inflation. It would almost certainly, if you plug it into our models, would lead to a global recession, and it could cost the global economy $1 trillion in lost output. So that's sort of the extreme scenario, which we have actually flirted with in April when Iran and Israel were exchanging attacks on each other, although that was in a calibrated way. A more persistent sort of conflict between the two countries, a direct one, would see large cost to the world and indeed to the region. There's another scenario, which is also bad, but less bad than the previous one, in which you have a proxy war between Iran and Israel, where the current conflict expands to, say, places like Syria, like Lebanon, and the cost here could be around $300 million to the global economy in 2024. It's less than the $1 trillion in the extreme scenario, but it's more than what we're currently facing in the world. And of course, there's a scenario in which you could get ceasefire. Now, the impact of that or the benefit of that on the global economy in terms of dollars and activity is not very much, but obviously it would save, the humanitarian benefit of that would be huge in the sense that you'd save on the death toll that's currently accumulating at a rapid pace as a result of the conflict.